Hey,
Hello.
hi everybody. It's our weekly trip down over to Westeros and House of the Dragon on HBO Max, and it's kicking butt, and it's really sort of coming into its own. So we're going to talk about episode 4 called
Yes.
"The King of the Narrow Sea." And before we kind of get into it, let's first do our little plugs about our membership on our YouTube channel.
Mhm.
For $2.99 a month, you get those top 4 yellow things, and for $4.99 a month, you get the yellow thing plus the red thing. So
The red thing's actually really cool because then we
yeah,
have to review whatever you tell us to review, and then
yeah,
you get a call out, and you can send us a video of you requesting it, and we'll put it in the video. But
that's
so
pretty
far,
sweet. And
people have been
also, which is
nice.
not on there, is our Slack channel, which is
Yes.
bubbling with lots of interesting conversation about
Yep.
movies, genre stuff, whatever. And it's a great way for us to connect one on one. And you can also throw some requests on there also. So
Mhm.
feel free to join our Cinemondo ever-growing family.
Thank you.
Sure. So this is
Okay.
episode 4. Let's talk about King of the Narrow Sea.
Yes.
And certainly it was directed by Claire Kilner, a female English director.
Mhm.
And so it's great that female directors are, getting into the fold here, into the mix of
Yes.
this series, which
It
is,
was a good episode to bring a woman into also because it got some touchy stuff in it, literally and figuratively.
yeah. I mean, this was not an episode with a lot of battles and dragons. This was about relationships within the family and the princess sort of breaking out of her, her reign, her just
Well, she's
terrible
coming of
king.
age.
She's
She's
coming of
getting
age,
too old. She's getting
right?
up long in the tooth there. Like, is she 17 now?
And she has to, yeah, and she has to kind of look at these suitors. She has to get married, and of course, there's one scene early on, this long list of men, and the first guy is probably like 80 years old or
And she's
something,
all like, "Are you kidding me with this?"
and the guy right after that's like a 12-year-old boy.
I love the scene with the 12-year-old boy though, because it's funny. He comes in and he has kind of this oddly deep voice, this very mature voice for a kid, and he's very serious. And then there's a guy on the side like heckling him, which I thought
Yeah,
was hilarious. Just being an asshole, like who heckles like a little kid, right? And then
yeah.
they get into a big tussle, and then the little kid kills a guy. Which is so
Yeah, and
freaking, I
because
was like,
he
okay,
comes from this family that's very, they're warriors, and so they're a proud, older family. So, but she had
okay.
enough. She started
Yeah,
walking away before that even sort of got into it, and she said, "I
yes,
can't do this. This is not.
yes.
I need to find my own. I have to make my own decision."
It was worth a shot because there were a lot of men there, but they just weren't right. They
No,
were
no,
and Viserys is trying to be cool about it. Like he's kind of like, I'm going to let you pick, and I'm going to send a lot of suitors that that you can try that would also be politically advantageous because that is part of it. You can't just go, oh, I want to marry the next guy I see. You got to think about you're going to be the next queen, and you got to think about like the kingdoms that you're bringing together, and also just the attitude toward the kingdom, toward all of the political ongoing in the castle that isn't quite happening the way they'd like. So there's sort of a low morale. So we gotta raise some morale and have a successor who's going to bring more to the table than just a name. So
well, that's a
she
great,
all get married and get pregnant. That's the whole
yeah,
point.
and there's a great conversation, a great scene between them later because after he finds out what she did that last night,
Well,
he,
let's get to that.
yeah.
We'll get to that.
Okay, I know.
Let's do it all in order.
Okay. Well, one
We-
thing I'll mention about
jumping
Damon,
around.
we see him come in, and he's got I consider a much needed haircut, but
Oh yeah, his hair looked good now. I think they actually dyed his real hair. It looked very real.
oh, so he comes in and he sort of kneels in front of the king, says, "You are my king," and he sort of bows down to him and sort of accepts his role, in the kingdom, which was interesting. It's like,
I
wow,
was
okay,
happy to see him. I want him to, I want them to be nice because I love Matt Smith. I want him to be on the show more. I want to see him on screen a lot more. I don't like them being separate. I want him to be in the middle of the action. I don't like him being off, in his own kingdom. It's not working
well,
for me. I don't like it. I want him to be
yeah.
there. And when he comes in, he does not disappoint because he comes in like, oh, I'm here. I'm here to play nice. But he's not a play nice guy. No
There's
matter what he
something
does.
going on there. I mean, it was an interesting line because the title of this episode is King of the Narrow Sea. And he says,
That's
I'm King
2
of the...
episodes based on him so far, named for him.
Right.
The Rogue Prince and now the King of the Narrow Sea.
Right. So there's a game he's playing here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So we don't know what that is, but he's very sort of, he bows down to the king. He's like, I'm going to be nice. And then shortly thereafter, he sort of meets up with the
Well,
princess and says,
yeah.
let's go out and see the sights.
Well, it wasn't quite that simple. She walked into her room and she sees a pile of clothes.
Right,
Like, why is this here? One night she
right,
goes in there. Then she sees a note and has a little map
right,
of
with
like
an
secret
X.
door, like secret
Right,
passageway she didn't know about. So she's like,
right,
what?
yeah,
So she gets these kind of trashy clothes. These are kind of like peasants' clothes. And she goes through this hallway. And then at the very end of this hallway, she sees Damon standing there. And he's like,
right,
let's go out.
yeah,
So she puts on her disguise, which looks like a little peasant boy.
right.
And they go down into the depths of King's Landing, which I guess is Flea Bottom, correct?
Right. And it's sort of, you're seeing all this sort of the people that are just, sort of, it's almost like going into this crazy carnival. There's all
It's
kinds of,
Burning Man,
yeah,
basically. We're the Burning Man down there.
right. And so she's kind of like excited about it. Like nobody knows who she
Yeah.
is. And she's sort of like having
Way
fun.
more
Like,
fun. There's
yeah,
like fireworks and there's
yeah.
flames and dancing
And she's
and
completely
lots of other
away
stuff.
from the shackles of,
Yes.
being behind the keep, as they say.
And being the queen and everyone like, watching what they say and what they do around her. And, it was really like he gave her a little taste of freedom of like having a
Yes.
moment to be, someone no one cares about, that you can just go and do what you want.
It was
Which
it was like, I
it was
like
actually
seeing,
really cool. I love they were holding hands. It was very sweet.
it was really like, oh, listen, they're connecting. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, good for you, Damon.
He came in and he's being a cool guy.
He's being a good uncle.
He's being the good
Until
uncle.
he's
No, he's not the good uncle. He's a little too good.
Yeah. So he takes
He can't
her,
resist.
he
He's
takes
like,
her,
okay, she's liking it. Let's
yeah.
go into the little extra level now.
Let's go to my hang. Let's go down to where the orgies happen. The pleasure rooms and all that kind of stuff. And so she's seeing all kinds of sex and naked people doing their stuff, and he's just walking her through, saying, "This is." People like to fuck part.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
And also it's like what I love too is that he got extra like ballsy because he had them take off their costumes. So now everyone knew who they were.
Right.
So here is, Damon and the Rhaenyra. Everybody's like, oh, and they're kind of pointing,
Right.
Everyone recognizes them and they're in the middle of this.
Right.
It was like, he just, what was it, sabotage? Was it just like, just own it? Like I can't tell. I'm not sure quite what his motivation was.
I didn't get his motivation either, which is interesting because like, what can this do other than just get the king pissed? Because sooner or later somebody will maybe see that, and that's kind of what happened. But it's like, what is the ultimate game for him?
I wonder if it's, he ultimately wants the throne. I mean, everything he's doing, I feel like is ultimately leading to he wants the power. And I don't know if like taking her down there, he's like corrupting, because it's different for men and women. Him being down there, no one cares. But if you bring the woman down in there, it could ruin her chances at being taken seriously as a queen. So I'm thinking like he was trying to kind of ruin her reputation in a way. But at the same time, I think he was genuinely wanting to get it on with the queen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is, incest is part of this family. And so there's a scene where, he sort of, or they both sort of mutually start kissing, and it gets kind of hot and heavy. Yeah. But then he breaks it off, before it gets to, goes too far.
I couldn't decide if he did it intentionally or was he impotent, because he had that moment before they kind of foreshadowed it a little bit. I don't know if he had a moment and then was just like, no, this is wrong. Or did he kind of go, oh, I can't go through with it. Like he has all kinds of issues.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at it
he
both
backed
ways.
away, but he kind of just left her hanging. Basically.
Yeah, you can look at it like this is all part of the grand scheme, and I was never going to go all the way, and I was just like, somebody's going to see this and report back, which is what happens. A little boy see, kind of
little birds, even now. Yeah,
and they go to Otto, and Otto, tells the king. So anyway, that's kind of the upshot of what that happened.
It then set into motion the next sequence of events. Was she gets back and she's all hot and bothered. She's like, wow, this is like a revelation. Like I never felt like this before. What is happening? So guess who's just nearby?
Yeah,
her knight. And Kristen Cole, who has bigger aspirations. It's like he's wanting to bring honor to his family, the Cole House of Cole or whatever. He's being seduced by this young potential queen.
Right.
And he's just adorable and he doesn't want to. But I have to say that where she's slowly peeling off his armor was very well done. Like very sensual. You could see not only was it the armor, it was like his resistance leaving with him. It was a beautiful scene. And I did feel like she was a little confident for someone who hadn't had sex before.
But, she was the aggressor, but it's also, she's the queen, or she's the future queen or the princess.
Yeah, but she was a little expert. I was beginning to wonder about that. I don't know. It
Yeah.
felt a little like learned, but that's okay.
Maybe there's a
You move
flashback.
fast.
You see.
You don't live very long here,
Yeah.
so you gotta move
Right,
fast.
right,
But
right.
I did think that was interesting, and that sort of been simmering for a while. I mean,
Right. Oh,
you
definitely.
wanted that as much as she did. It's like,
The
come on,
previous
guys.
scene where they were camping out in the woods was like, is this one's gonna happen? But it didn't,
Did
so
not.
previous
So
episode.
it's been like a shipping situation. And then what I love too is like the next day, the doctor comes in and he goes, "Here's a potion. You should
Yeah.
probably take this." It's like they all kind of know. I guess
Right.
it's sort of like a plan B kind of potion where in
Right.
case she's
Right.
pregnant. Because think about it. What if she got pregnant with the Knight's baby? I mean, she's got to move fast. Like if she wants to try and lay this on whoever she's about to marry, who we don't, that's not even in play yet. Like if she got
Yeah.
pregnant right now, that would be disaster.
It would be.
It would be bad. So the
Yeah.
potion's probably the way to go.
Right. So that's kind of like that. Then, of course, the king finds out and is just, furious, just beyond him. Like, he
So
can't believe it.
irresponsible, seriously.
Right.
I
And so
don't blame him for being
so,
pissed.
so he has it out with her and says, you've got to think about your responsibilities. You've got to think about what this means to you and to the throne and to our family and to, King's Landing.
Well, she needs to get her shit together. Like she's acting like a little kid. She doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I want to do it. It's like, look, you wanted to be the successor. You wanted to be the queen. This is it. This is it. Like I'm tired of waiting for you. You're gonna marry the sea snake's son. That's it. Done. It's done. You're just doing it. And she's all like, whoa, whoa. And and also to juxtapose to him, they kept showing him with his queen, and it wasn't exactly hot, and it was she was doing her duty, and it was her own prison. And she was kind of sent there by Otto, her father, and so she was just literally a pawn, just put in there. And now she's just like, getting pregnant again. And I was wondering too, after they had that terrible sex scene, which is just painful to watch. And by the way, have you noticed the tapestries in these rooms?
I have not. Are they really?
They're incredibly pornographic.
Oh, no kidding. I have to spend.
So I'm thinking it's like a fertility thing, but yeah, they're like full on orgy. Graphic depictions, like Craig hands grabbing. It's insane. Take a look at the tapestry, you guys. I'll put a little screen cap. Not for kids.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they show a scene of her the next day, and she's very conspicuously drinking from this little cup. And I was wondering, like, did she also get a morning after drink? Because it seemed like she was like, I don't want it. Like, there was this moment where she just did not want to get pregnant again. And you can see her laying there going, fuck, I don't want this again.
No, I think that's what I picked up from that scene.
I'm getting that. So she's like over it also.
Right. It's just unfortunate for what they have to deal with, like, especially her, just like Sarah's a nice guy, but he's got all these boils and stuff, on his body.
Well, because he's getting cut to shit by the throne, which supposedly the throne does that to people who aren't supposed to be the king. It's supposed to be kind of like, you're not resistant to the throne. So he's a nice guy, and he seems like he wants to do the right thing, but he is not cut out for this. But also what he does is finally the smart thing, even though I felt a little bad, is that killing the messenger. When Otto tells him about what Rhaenyra is doing, he all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and goes, oh my God, you set this whole thing up. You sent me your daughter, the whole thing. I can't trust you. What the hell? All you did was aspirations to the throne all along.
Right.
So he was like, bye, and takes the little hand of the king off of him, and it's like, whoa, dude, overplay.
Well, you know what? That's a king's move. I mean, that's the move you do if you're really king. What's that?
He did it elegantly.
He did.
He just went, the kingdom owes you a debt that can never be repaid. Sorry, you're fired.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that was it was what he had to do, and then what the next thing he had to do was to confront his brother, and for what happened there, and that's a big scene.
Another great scene.
Yeah.
Like Matt Smith, face down, drunk as hell.
Yeah.
And he's all like, about to cut his throat, going, I hate you. Why do you have to be this way? And the thing is, if he would just get his shit together, he's like the brother who just can't quite get it together and is just a total waste. And everybody, you can't trust the guy. Imagine this guy on the throne. How chaotic would it be? Oh my God.
He's like Roman in Succession. He's
totally
just like that one,
If they had him, he'd be sending dick pics. There's no way he would not. So it's like, oh my God. So this wasn't the big battle scene stuff, but I love the behind the scenes talkie, all these pieces being moved into place. I like this. I mean, it was juicy. There was a lot going on. It had a lot to do with choice and reproductive rights, but still,
I think House of the Dragon so far, I mean, there have been some really great action scenes, but ultimately it is about the family. It is a kind of a chamber
Yeah.
piece. It's interior,
Yeah.
political movements here and there, that kind of stuff. What's everybody's reason for doing what they're doing? And so
Yeah.
this was great. This was really, the princess's storyline. What is she turning into,
Yeah.
and what the king does, and what they. So it's all about the family. This one.
And it felt really solid of like you see this slow motion train wreck happening, and it's
Yeah.
really feeling like more and more like, clear that this is just a big huge collision about to happen. And I loved seeing that, like the whole thing with, the night, her out there being seen in that, den of, of
Right.
sensuality, what I call
Yeah.
it. It's like,
Yeah.
and Damon playing his hand and showing who he really is again, showing his ass, like as always, the king for
Yeah.
a second trusting him. And you
Yeah.
just know that Viserys is just not looking good for him. Every time they show him, it's like he's looking worse and worse. And I love
There's
Patty, this actor, so good.
Patty
Like,
Considine is
so
good in
good. Oh my
everything. He's
God.
in a lot of Edgar Wright films, and he brings
So
a
good.
certain pathos to his character. Sort of,
He
you
really
feel sort of
does.
like always he's a little bit pathetic, but you
Yeah.
also like him. You feel sorry for him,
Me
and it's
too.
exactly what the king is. And when you have somebody like Matt Smith, who is exactly the opposite. He's just powerful, hunky guy that's just ready to, pounce. And
Yeah.
so it's all about his game to
Mhm.
get the throne. And
It
who's he
really
going to
is.
manipulate to get there?
I'm just dreading. I feel like he's sort of the Ned Stark. Like I'm just dreading what's going to happen to him because he's too nice and too honorable to last very long. And I just feel like the ending for him is going to be just awful. And
Well,
I hope he makes it, but with
hey,
the way these time jumps are happening, because every episode seems to jump, which I like in a way, but I would still like to kind of sit with some of these plot lines for a little longer. But I know there's only so many episodes, but I feel like
and
eventually we're going to jump ahead where he gonna be gone.
well, and also
So,
we're going to have different
yes,
actresses in for the queen and princess. So that happens, I think, after episode 5. So I think we have one more,
no
and
more
then
in this time.
we're going to loop up whatever, maybe 10 years or
That
something.
makes
Who
me
knows?
think that this might be the end because,
He-
Daenerys now he's gotten rid of his hand. He's gonna force the wedding of, Sea Snake's son, who's no slouch. He's super hot also. So don't worry, Daenerys, you're all right. So you're
right,
okay, except it's also incest, but whatever. Um, but
right.
that's you feel like those pieces are happening, but what's gonna happen with Viserys? It just doesn't look good. I'm
It
getting
might be
worried.
it might be a Ned Stark, episode 5 he goes, but who knows? Well, maybe he'll surprise, or maybe the show will surprise us. But anyway, the fact that we have some empathy for him is
Mhm.
great, because
Yeah.
that's what you need for this to work.
Yeah, he's
You
no Joffrey, that's for sure.
No, he's not.
And I guess Matt Smith's more Joffrey-esque because he's kind of just clueless and doesn't give a shit, and he's just out of control. He's not as mean as Joffrey, intentionally mean, but he definitely has his issues, and he really wants that throne. So
He's the
not
guy
good.
that is the antagonist for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's like, but they have Matt Smith, who's so good in it also, because you're still kind of rooting for him, even though he's a total disaster.
I think everybody's good. Reese Ifans, who plays Otto,
Yep.
is great. He's always played sort of comical characters. I've seen him
Yeah.
in funny, goofy stuff, and this
Yeah.
him is very, very serious, very stoic. Holding his cards behind his back. So that's kind of cool too. So it's a good cast for
It
sure.
is. And I'm anxious, I'm glad they already have a female director in here. Like Game of Thrones, I think had one or two its entire run in writers
Really?
and directors. So
Wow.
already this first season has two female directors. And this director had also done a lot of TV, like Alienist, Debris, Mosquito Coast. So she's done drama, but she's done a lot of comedy, romantic
Mm,
comedies. So I think in a way she almost brought a little bit of that. Not that it was funny, but she brought that sort of lighter, sensual touch to what was happening. So you were not totally grossed out when this shit was going down with Daenerys and Daemon. So it was
right.
like, unlike, Cersei and and what's his name?
Mm.
Cersei and
Oh, I don't know. You're talking Game of Thrones.
oh no, it's
That's
the first episode, dude. You watched it.
oh,
Anyway, so those two together was like, oh, gross, ah. And then when you see Damon and Daenerys, you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
you
It
kind of
could be
and
just
you
the
kind of know.
direction.
It's still definitely it's. I'm happy just as far as watching the show that he does
Yeah,
sort of break it off before they get too
yeah,
far and go all the way.
exactly.
So, but it was for that episode. It sort of sets you up for the end of the halfway point of the season,
Mhm.
which is next
Yeah.
week. So
Yep.
there's going to be some climactic stuff, some things coming to a head here before I think we time jump to the new actresses
Yeah.
and kind of like maybe 5-10 years down the road or whatever it will be. So
Yeah.
exciting to watch. So
It's
it's
very
it's a
cool.
great show. If you haven't watched it,
right.
again, I'll say this: I didn't watch Game of Thrones except for the first couple episodes. If you haven't watched Game of Thrones, you can just start. Watch these 4 episodes. Watch the whole series. You don't need Game of Thrones backstory. Obviously, there's
You don't
Easter eggs in there, but you don't need to watch it.
It can
So
stand on its own. I mean, there, like I said, there's Easter eggs and some backstory that's actually for story, but you're basically starting before Game of Thrones, so you don't have to worry about having to catch up.
right.
It actually would work to watch them in this order.
And it's fun to, after you watch it with us, we can kind of do a recap, and of course you tell us in the comments what you thought about the episode, and we'll take a look and we'll keep doing this. It's fun.
All right. See you
Okay.
next time.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.